So since we're here, let's talk about it now. COVID-19, coronavirus, or as our dear Trump likes to put it,
the Chinese virus. Chinese virus. Chinese virus.
Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all.
People have been talking about COVID-19 a lot. It's all over the news. That's pretty much what everybody is talking about these days. You switch on the TV, you switch on news, that's what is there everywhere. It has been declared as a global pandemic a few weeks ago, and since then, the cases have not dropped.
Coronavirus pandemic, which is, I'm sad to say, accelerating at dramatic speed.
The royal family has confirmed that 71-year-old Prince Charles has tested positive for COVID-19.
Overseas travel won't just be not recommended, it will be completely banned.
In Italy, nearly 800 people have died within the past 24 hours.
Italy has become the center of the COVID-19 growth, and the number of deaths have been the maximum in Italy. Total number of cases in Italy have crossed 74,000, and the total number of deaths have already crossed 7,500. In fact, as of today, the total number of cases in Spain, it has crossed 45,000, but the total number of deaths have crossed the number of deaths in China put together. So Europe seems to be center of growth now, Italy and Spain being the center of growth now. Other countries like Germany and Iran and France have also been impacted severely. United States has already recorded more than 60,000 cases, and the deaths have crossed 800. In India, the cases have been so far less. They've crossed 500 recently, and the total number of deaths has reached 10. However, the number of cases in India has been consistently low, primarily because the number of testing kits that are available to the Indian hospital systems is very less. The number of testing kits that are available for the doctors to be able to test the patients is less. Hence, India and Indian hospital systems have resorted to a method of testing patients who have visited from foreign countries, but then have not been able to cumulatively assess the community spread that has happened. There have been people from Italy who have come forward and who have given out their statements saying government did warn us about this Chinese virus, COVID-19. They did warn us about it, but then the people of Italy did not take them seriously for weeks. And once the coronavirus hit its phase 3, the number of deaths started increasing rapidly. The number of cases started increasing rapidly. The infrastructure that Italy has, the hospital infrastructure that Italy has, is good enough for them to test new cases, for them to be able to identify new cases and the community spread that has happened. That situation has not happened yet in India. Let's also talk about the impact on economy that this is going to have, or this is already having. Coronavirus is already, as seen by many of the economists, has resulted in recession. Recession has already started. We are setting into a phase where recession is happening. Look at the stocks. The US stock market has crashed. Multiple industries have crashed. In fact, even Indian market is seen a huge fall.
That's the closing bell on Wall Street as we are watching the end of trading today. Right now, the Dow is settling down somewhere in the down 2,300 range.
Apple, Nike, some of the bigger companies that warned that manufacturing there being shut down because of the coronavirus would impact their results.
SEBI has issued a statement on the market meltdown, and SEBI has said that Indian markets are moving in tandem with global markets.
So I believe when the economists say that the unemployment around the globe is going to increase. By how much is something that only time can tell. But if it's going to be worse than the Great Depression of 1929, it's going to be way more than 20%. Imagine 20% of the working population is going to be jobless. The Great Depression continued for 10 years. It took 10 years from 1929 to 1939 for markets to actually recover. What do you do when the entire global market crashes? What do you do in an economic crisis? So the answer is a few things. It's very important that you invest in your mental health, in your physical health. And since we are living in the internet era, we have internet at this stage, it makes complete sense that you start putting out content, you start investing in your personal brand. What building a personal brand does to you is something that is a little out of scope for this video. However, having a personal brand by the end of this economic crisis is something that I can talk about. At the end of this economic crisis, companies are going to look for talent very, very specifically. What that means is companies are going to be extremely choosy about whom they want to hire. And you need to be at the top of the food chain. And given the internet era, given the time that we live in, being top of the food chain has a lot to do with how visible you are. So your visibility matters. People need to know who you are. And for them to know who you really are, you need to put yourself out there. And that's what personal brand is going to do for you. So put your ideas out there, put your thoughts and start engaging with social media out there. And that would be something that I really believe is going to add a lot of value during this economic crisis. Second, during the previous recessions, people have ended up investing a lot in real estate. What happened in the 2008-2009 housing disaster, right? A lot of people had invested in real estate at that point, and since the housing market went down, a lot of people lost a lot of money. However, from 2008 to 2019, what we've seen is a steep rise in real estate market. I'm talking about global real estate. I'm talking about, especially since 2008-2009 had a huge impact on the US real estate market. Since 2008, the US real estate market has seen a lot of improvement. So people do generally invest in real estate at this point. The third place that people invest a lot is precious metals, gold, silver, etc. Gold and silver have survived multiple economic crashes and they have sailed through. Investing in gold in general is considered to be good, a long-term strategy, and people at this point during an economic crisis start thinking about long-term strategy. Having said these three options, I still believe that the first option, that is investing in yourself, should be your top priority, because none of this is going to matter. It's not going to matter how much gold you have with you. It's not going to matter how many stocks you have with you. It's not going to matter how many houses you have with you unless you're mentally and physically fit. While we are at it, let's also talk about the psychological impact of coronavirus. And the reason I want to bring this up is when the SARS outbreak happened in China, that was a time a lot of psychologists were out there talking about the psychological impact during the outbreak as well as after the outbreak. About 8,000 people got infected by SARS and over 800 people died. It was an epidemic, it was a disaster. However, coronavirus is bigger and it's a global pandemic. Now, given the magnitude and the scale at which this virus is spreading, people are already seeing a lot of psychological impacts. A study conducted during the SARS outbreak clearly showed that more than 10% people have experienced post-traumatic stress during the SARS, and these also include people who have directly not been affected by SARS, which just means that even if your relatives are affected by SARS, you end up taking so much stress that it equals a post-traumatic stress. Given the fact that coronavirus is way bigger than SARS, and we are at a stage where we haven't figured out what coronavirus is, there is a lot of unknown variables and uncertainty around COVID-19 and its spread. For a lot of you, this is the first economic crash that you're witnessing in your professional career. If you already have lost your job or are living with the fear that you might lose your job, my request to you is be patient, be calm, and keep investing in yourself. And for entrepreneurs like myself who are starting a business right now or who already have a business which is growing slow during this economic crisis, here's my biggest advice to you all. Keep at it. Surviving this economic crash is going to be your biggest advantage for your business.